Hey, Barbara,
Hi.
Berenice,
Oh,
Gina.
hello. How are you? Oh, hello, Dr. Shelton. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, Mary.
Okay.
Hi.
So, Dr. Shelton, I have that issue at the top of the agenda. So I don't know what you were told. I emailed with Giselle Cohen
Oh,
uh,
Gabrielle.
or
Gabrielle.
Gabrielle, excuse me. Yeah. And so the way it'll work, well, we'll wait a few more minutes, let some other people file in. But basically, you're here to present the pro position for the bond. So you'll have 5 to 8 minutes.
Okay.
Nikki Koloff, who's already with us, she is going to present the no position. And then we'll leave some time for some Q&A.
Okay.
Do you have any slides you want to share, Dr. Shelton?
I do. I do.
Okay. I can make you co-host.
Okay. Now let's make sure I just got another computer. I went from a HP to a Mac, so it's
Yeah, that's a
interesting.
big shift. I went from a Droid phone to an iPhone recently, so I'm still learning the uh, the nuances of the platform. Okay, well, welcome everybody. I'm going to throw up the agenda for this evening, and I'm sure a few more people will be filing in. But so we're going to start today's meeting with presentations about the school bond issue. And Dr. Shelton, the superintendent, is going to give the for argument. Nikki Koloff is going to give the against. We'll leave some time for Q&A. So we had said 5 to 8 minutes for each of the presenters. And then we'll, at the end of those two presentations, we'll open it up for questions from the PNA membership here. And then we're going to transition. We've got this neighborhood council candidate forum happening this Sunday. Hope everyone will be there. This is only an in-person event at Lincoln Middle School. This is all 10 city council candidates will be there. And it should be a good way to get to know all of them better and their positions. Tony's going to give a quick update about his meeting with the Virginia Park folks. And then Maria's going to give a CVRA update. Then we need to really lock in when we're going to have our annual membership meeting, and then any new business announcements. So that is our game plan. And let me get out of this. So Dr. Shelton, I'm going to go ahead and hopefully this will work, make co-host. And then you should be able to take it from there.
Okay. All right.
And after you've gone about 7 minutes, I'll just kind of give you, hey, a minute or two.
Okay. So I can share now.
Yes, you should be able to.
Can you all
There.
see it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe
All right.
make it full screen.
Yeah. I'm working through it. I knew they shouldn't have gave me this. Okay. Can you all see that? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Steve Massetti usually does this and I support him, but he is at another event. I am going to share some of this information with you really quickly. I put myself on a timer so that you all can also be able to get the information. So as you know, we serve around 8,600 kids. It shares here about 9,000, but 8,600 kids in 15 schools currently. We will be opening back up the Smash Mirror School that has been closed. You can see we have around a 98% district-wide graduation rate. And I want to make sure everybody understands it. There are two specific SFIDs, and that means that there are two specific facilities improvement districts. And that's one for Malibu. So whatever money Malibu raises, that money will go to Malibu only. And then whatever money Santa Monica raises, that will go only to Santa Monica schools. As you all can, this is real quick information about Prop 39 and bond measures, what's allowed and when it's allowed during election years, primary and general election, so forth and so on. We also have an opportunity for this Prop 2 money that will be voted on in November for the state. And we are eligible right now, is our understanding, for about $73 million if we pass this bond. We are placing on the November 5th ballot Measure QS. Once again, it's Measure QS for School Facility Improvement District 1, which is Santa Monica, for $495 million. There's a separate measure for Malibu that's $395 million. All of our schools, we focus on a particular area as it relates to our LCAP. That's a safe, well-maintained school, and that's what we're trying to achieve in regards to the facilities. As you can see, that is the third teacher in the space. Now, so you all understand some background. Average school buildings within our district were built around 1953, which gives us about 70 years. Single buildings around 123 buildings. Our biggest thing in the 90s, which is about 30 years ago, we had a series of portables because of some regulations and ed code saying that we need smaller class sizes, which brought about the portables 30 years ago, the portables as well as the modulars. So you see we have some aging facilities where there hasn't been, specifically in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, up until the 2000s, there were no facilities really built. Benefits of improved schools. The list goes on here as it relates to what is happening with our schools. Schools with better building conditions have up to 14% lower student suspensions. This is just some statistics and information that we've gathered from the CDE, sharing information about reading, comprehension, achievement scores, as well as just as the school building ages, 9%, as high as 9% depending on the maintenance factors. Another
Dr. Shelton, just real quick, can you do a slideshow, make it full screen?
That's a good question.
You just go up, see the top there, slideshow, and click on that and then go to current slide. Where's current slide? Oh,
got it. Thank
okay.
you. As you can see, I don't understand this computer, but Santa Monica facility needs. This bond will heavily focus on elementary and middle school emphasis, as well as removing some of these portables, as well as the modulars. We also have a focus area around STEM learning. That's the science, math, technology, and engineering, so that we can provide collaborative spaces. And with this money, we would be able to do so. Now, our needs also include transitional kindergarten. This was a program added by the state with 4-year-olds. And those 4-year-olds have some requirements that have been placed by the state, which include 2 specific teachers in a room, or a teacher and an aide, along with a restroom and access to a playground area. So those needs we have to work through, because not all of our schools have those specific areas. I think we're around 14 classes of TK classes right now. Safety and security, as you know, is a very important part of what's going on. So we're going to have to do some seismic and fire prevention upgrades on some of our older buildings. We're also going to have to make some specific measures that need to take, which include access control, making sure the front office is protected, and also making sure our perimeters are in good form to ensure that we can keep people out. We also, alongside our STEM facilities, we have a very strong need for libraries, which have evolved over time, and those spaces have changed. We're currently at John Adams, built at John Adams right now, upgrading the library there and making sure that they would have a new space from the bond in 2018. Here are our needs. You'll see where the X's are, where the specific needs exist, and where the concerns are for those specific buildings. And you can see our money that would be raised would be spent at Roosevelt, Grant, Franklin, Smash, Lincoln, Adams, also at Samo High. John Adams, this is what we would be doing with the money. As you can see, 34,000 square foot of space focused on science, which provides engineering lab and maker spaces. One of the things that people know is that we have already met with teachers. We've started the planning process. So there's a commitment already that exists. Our teachers are aware of what's going on. Our teachers have been a part of the planning of these buildings. Our architects have also been a part of the planning of these buildings. Lincoln Middle School, they also have one of the oldest buildings with the 500s building, which is a former shop building that they are currently using that's unair conditioned, and we're working through that, which would give us an exterior courtyard, also an innovation lab, project-based learning lab, 2 science labs, and 5 general education classes. Grant, this is where we would replace those modulars, expansion of the library, makerspace in the middle of campus to ensure the kids can work through their projects around science, expansion of outdoor play area, and also new transitional kindergarten classrooms. And this would allow us to meet the needs that are mandatory by the state in regards to their standard size. And the state has requirements around the TK buildings. And then at Grant Elementary, we would have Grant would be where those portables are. I apologize. We replace 6 of the 30-year-old portable classrooms that have water intrusion with new classrooms, add science and garden STEM deck, which would be on top of that building to focus on the areas where we believe science and technology is at the forefront as they transition from high school. And I hope you can see the connection as we're doing something at JAMS. Those students that go from Grant go to JAMS, where they will also connect that curriculum. And then from there to Samo High, where they will continue our focus around career technical education and engineering. Franklin Elementary would also get something in this, and that's their new early learning building, a field and parking improvements. So we have to spread this money around. As you know, $495 million, it sounds like an awful lot. But when you're talking about building in our town, it's very difficult, and it's also costly, as we already are aware. There's a site right here, 75,000 square feet of site construction, including the playfield and parking. Santa Monica High School would also get replace the obsolete business building where the College and Career Center would be. We would replace that to have our restorative justice, our health and wellness center, along with designated classrooms. Black Box Theater replaces the Humanities Center theater that exists there. Also provide areas for project-based learning and performance as well. And this would be another building within the center of campus to help get closer to completing the needs of Samo High. And also there are several areas that we would need to utilize this money for. At Addison, we need to make sure that drop-off pickup is completed. Safety and security around the electronic locks for Edison, as well as perimeter fencing improvements to ensure the kids are safe there. Technology throughout the district, which is around fiber and outdoor wireless access because more of our kids are outside. Workforce housing feasibility investigation to ensure that our staff, to figure out if our staff wants a workforce housing, also areas for preschool and special ed at Obama Center, and Rogers Innovation Modernization, as well as Ocean Park Neighborhood School, Innovation Lab, Admin, and Parking Modernization. Here is the list that we have created. All of these projects, just so you know, all of these projects have also been discussed with teachers at their school sites of what could be. Also, we have worked on design so that as soon as this passes, which we hope it passes, that we could start the work. As you can see, it outlines each of what the buildings are and what we would be doing with your money if we were able to get this completed. And last of all, it's just some comparisons here. Assessed value of homes as it relates to our neighboring districts like LA Unified, Beverly Hills, Manhattan Beach, Redondo, and Las Virgenes. And I know Redondo is also going for a bond. I also know that Palos Verdes is going for a bond. All of our schools in our vicinity have needs because they're in the same boat as we are. I just hope that we gave a clear explanation of why we have this need because of our aging buildings, which have are over 70 plus years old. And also we have a great deal of modulars and so forth at these elementary schools. So thank you so much for this time.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shelton. And you closed out. Awesome. And so next up, we're going to hear an opposing view against the bond from Nikki Koloff. And do you want me to make you co-host, Nikki? Would that be easier for you on your end?
Oh, no, I sent it to you so you could share it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Got a couple more people coming into the meeting. So if you just came in a little late, Dr. Shelton just gave the position for the bond. Now we're going to hear the position against the bond. And then we're going to leave 10 minutes for questions at the end of Nikki's presentation. And oops. Hold on, Nikki. I'm trying to find what you sent me.
It was around 6, I think.
Yeah. Okay, let me go back to the share. Here we go. All right, I found it.
Yep. All right. So I am Nikki Kohlhoff, parent of 2 kids who went through the district for 15 years. Youngest just graduated a few months ago. I'm also on the board of Friends of Sunset Park, your neighboring neighborhood association. And also for my day job, I'm a corporate finance lawyer. So I do know that bonds are how we build schools, but this is a bad bond. And you should say no, and I will let you know why. So next slide, please. SMMUSD has already bonded for over 1.1, that should be 7 billion. And that's in addition to the 5 SMC bonds for 1.3 billion. And now they want another $500 million. So it's not like residents haven't been giving money to the district for construction. And this would make $1 billion in 6 years. Next, please. Our district also has other sources of local revenue because Santa Monicans are so generous and have passed a lot of different sales taxes and parcel taxes. Those total another $53 million per year. And that is what's supposed to cover things like maintenance of our buildings, but has not been used for those purposes in the way it should have been. Next. Instead of awesome new buildings, we have gotten waste and broken promises. So the district said it was going to repair leaky roofs, install HVAC district-wide, and upgrade security systems. That's their promise in every bond, but they are still not done. They promised to replace the trailers. That also has been in every bond, and they're still not done. And while Dr. Shelton said it's a priority of the district, there are only 9 trailers being replaced with the next $500 million if they stick to their project list, which is not a legally binding project list either. So 9. That leaves at least 2/3 of our portables remaining until we give them more money. So our kids and teachers will still be in trailers after this bond is done. The pictures on the side are the grant trailers. Those are 6 of the 9 trailers. Those trailers were so old they disintegrated, and the district had to spend money, bond money, leasing more trailers. So essentially the bond priorities, what the district is building, is not aligned with our community's highest needs. Next, please. What we got includes defective new buildings. So 200 million on one building at Samo High that opened in 2022. That has built faucets that don't work, HVAC that didn't function for the first 2 years, leaky roofs, and foul smells. They also spent $45 million on the JAMS auditorium, of which SMC did contribute 20, but the district was responsible for all the upside, and it's so complicated it requires an special operator to work the sound. That largesse is all money that could have been spent better on higher priorities had it been spread around. Other things that don't work in your neighborhood, of course, you'll remember the solar chimneys. Next slide, please. These are some pictures. The top left is the Discovery building, the $200 million building at Samo High, showing one of its strange aspects, the stairway that includes bleacher stairs. So really it's half staircase and half benches for kids to sit on, which I guess is some sort of current design trend that all the architects like, but it's not very practical for getting 800 kids up and down staircases in 9 minutes. The bottom left is, and they put bleacher stairs in the new building that just opened as well. Bottom left is the freezing temperature in the Discovery building when the air conditioning was essentially stuck on, so they had to just turn it off because it was too cold. The right-hand side was the Lincoln Field that was closed for a whole year. And after all of that, it wasn't draining, it didn't have proper drainage. And so the first time it rained, the cork floated away. Next. We also got unsafe conditions. We have the school discontinuing third-party oversight during the removal of arsenic from McKinley soil. That was this summer, and you heard the neighbors come out to the school board meeting about that. Millions fighting the community about cleaning up toxic PCBs instead of just cleaning it up. They also wouldn't spend $300,000 on filters for clean air district-wide that would have benefited every student and teacher. They only eventually bought them when a parent challenged them to apply for a grant that got them $1.6 million because the parent was correct all along. Next. We also have a district that's not spending our money to maintain the buildings we have. So Muir Smash, as you all know, is one of our newest schools, built within the lifetime of a bond. And that had to be closed in 2022 and taken down to the studs because of water damage and mold from years of improper repairs. It was also our most diverse school. Most bathrooms are still gross. They also demolish our cultural resources. New buildings are very expensive to fix. They keep building more expensive buildings. And so they don't set aside adequate maintenance funds. Next, please. This is Mirror Smash. So again, this was a functioning school. This is not a new school, but this is one of the schools being entirely rebuilt because they didn't maintain it. Next. This, as many of you'll recall, this is the demolition of the history building. The photo on the right is Shelton overseeing them taking out the mature trees. And the bottom left is the Muir Woods mural at Olympic that was allowed to rot and decay until it had to be removed. Next, please. So overall, what we have with SMMUSD and their facilities program is a lack of accountability. This bond is another blank check. It's nice that Dr. Shelton gave you a presentation of what they say they're going to do with it, but it can literally be spent on anything relating to construction, as long as it's not certain salaries. So as you heard toward the end, they're looking at housing even. Our kids are sitting in trailers and they're looking at building workforce housing instead. There is no legally binding project list. So whatever they're telling you, if it's not in the bond, they don't have to do it. And you have no recourse whatsoever. And once it passes, it's 4 school board votes for how it gets spent, period. The Citizens Oversight Committee has no power to do anything. Because it's a blank check, there's nothing for them to cross-check the bond spending on. So all they can check is whether the bond was spent per the bond language. Well, the bond language allows anything under the sun. So that doesn't give us any oversight. Similarly, and they met twice all of last year, and they haven't produced an annual report for 8 years. The district's accountant also only confirms that money is spent. So when Dr. Shelton or Carrie Upton goes to the accountant and says, hey, one of our projects is the Discovery Building, they do is confirm that invoices go to the Discovery Building. Not that it was spent well, not that it's what we wanted, not that the building works or not, none of that. It's just that money was spent. Next, please. And generally, SMMUSD is fiscally irresponsible. We have declining enrollment, but it keeps building more and bigger. Those numbers Dr. Shelton gave you included Malibu, not just Santa Monica. Santa Monica is under 8,000 and declining. Property owners and renters will pay for this for 30 years, and there is no senior exemption. The district started projects. He said, oh, we've already started designing and we've spent money essentially. In the past, they weren't supposed to do that because that's irresponsible to start spending money on projects you can't finish. This time, they flipped the script and did that so that they can hold residents hostage for the next bond. They could have spent all that money replacing portables. Then finally, their bond ratings have also been downgraded in 2021 because they deficit spend and don't maintain reserves. And that's gotten worse since that downgrade, not better. So it's time for accountability. We all want to support our kids and have good schools, but we don't do it by giving this group of leaders a blank check. We need accountability first. We need to press pause and look at where it was spent, look at how it was spent, and make different choices going forward. And the only way to do that is to vote no. Because if you don't vote no, they're just going to keep barreling forward the same way they have in the past. Our students and teachers will continue to suffer in substandard facilities unless there is accountability. And again, the only way to get that is to vote no. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nikki. I see in the chat, this is from Gail with a link about from the district of their assessment of the past projects and what they've fulfilled and so forth. So thank you both. Now we're just going to open it up to questions from the board and membership of the PNA. Is there anything you want to add real quick, Dr. Shelton?
Yes, thank you for allowing me to share. A lot of this information was not accurate.
Like what?
am I supposed to talk or is she talking? I'll wait if she wants to interrupt me while I'm talking. That's fine.
Go ahead. Why don't we say 2 minutes and then we'll give her another 2 minutes and then go to questions. How about that?
That's fine. I just want to make sure that I get the time to just share some of the things that are inaccurate. You know, for the bond, and we've checked on this for the bond, first of all, that we cannot have exemptions on school bonds. That's the truth. And I also know that there is a full audit that is done. And so people are saying, or she's saying that we have been downgraded in our bonds. Not true. I can get Steve to talk you through that. I can also get Melody to talk through that. That's pretty much based on the fact that we have to have a reserve policy, which we are working toward getting a reserve policy and working with our board members because we are there. The other part of this that was said in regards to that it took a year. It didn't take a year around the construction for the track. It also was said that we didn't do anything to up or maintain the John Muir Smash. That project for years had issues prior to any of us on the screen, Carrie, myself, Gail, any of us being a part of any of the bonds that were projects in that project from the beginning. The district pushed back on the builders who were doing things. We went through the process in proper channels. We are trying to open and reopen that building. We've been transparent about what was going on there. I'm just trying to remember all of the inaccuracies that I can't remember them. There were so many. Carrie, did you want to share any of the ones that you have, or Gail from the district? We only have probably 30 seconds left. Unmute Carrie or Gail.
Sure, yeah, I just want to say, we have been working on our roofs. We've spent close to $10 million on roofs in the last few years. We had 2 major years of rain, and our buildings, the average age of a school building in Santa Monica is over 70 years old. So we're really playing catch up still, trying to prepare and make these the best learning spaces that we possibly can. We have actually gone from 15% of our schools being air conditioned to close to 98%. There's only one classroom building in Santa Monica that does not have air conditioning. It's the Lincoln Building at the 500s. This bond will pay for a full refurbishment of that, along with some places that y'all most care about. Is the new science building that will replace a very, very unpleasant building at John Adams Middle School that will provide a really state-of-the-art educational building with good project-based learning that will really help with the engagement gap. We're doing major work at Grant. We will be replacing 15 portables and modulars with this bond. We've also replaced 12 with the last bond. We'll still have about 18 left, but we have to do major projects at Roosevelt and Franklin before we can then replace those, because it's sort of a stepped phase. So
our time is up, Carrie. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Nikki,
quick
2 minutes.
rebuttal. Sure. First of all, Dr. Shelton, Moody's downgraded you in 2021. Mark Verville wrote articles on it. It's publicly available. Your bond ratings were downgraded. They were. The track was down for a year. My kids were there. It was gone the whole year. The whole year. Ask anyone who actually was there on campus. 3, Smash, yeah, years and years of problems, but obviously not remedied properly by your staff. 4th, working on the roofs. But while you're going to be building this giant STEM play thing on JAMS, the music room at JAMS is leaking every time it rains, because it was supposed to be renovated with the JAMS auditorium, and then it got moved off the maintenance list because you thought you were going to tear it down. So that still has leaks. Finally, the portable numbers. I had 15 in the last one, 9 in this one. You shifted 3 each way. The point is still the same number of portables that I gave by the end of this bond, leaving at least 37 portables not fixed. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Nikki. Let's open it up to the members here. Any questions? Just use your raise the hand, or if you're on video, just raise your hand. Yeah, Maria.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank the presenters for taking the time to give us the information regarding this bond. I have a question, well, several questions. The first one is with regards to the possible construction of housing. What's the possibility of the workforce housing being part of the projects within this bond? And second, would the district become a landlord to that workforce housing, right? So that's one question. And then the other question is, Nikki mentioned the fact that there hasn't been any annual reports regarding the bonds and its projects. Are you all considering revamping that, incorporating mandatory annual reports, and also incorporating a mandatory meetings of this advisory or oversight committee? Yeah, those are my questions. I didn't want to go too much.
Well, first of all, thank you, Maria. It's a feasibility study that we would do with some of the money within the bond. It's not to build anything. It's just a feasibility. We have to make some determinations, and that is a possibility that would exist within the bond. Carrie, did you want to give more?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking to address a really serious issue, which is that both teachers and staff really can't afford to live in Santa Monica. And so we lose people every year for that. So we want to investigate that. But the language in the bond does just say that we will use that for investigation. As far as the meetings, we've had a hard time getting a quorum. Berenice is part of that group, and we've had a hard time getting a group. So we've had scheduled meetings, but there are no minutes because we haven't had official meetings. We have had a group of people meet. They have reviewed and approved the audits. That's what their job is specifically to do. And as far as reports on the bonds, those happen regularly, at least quarterly, in front of the board, where we talk about these projects. Every project that's up here has been fully discussed with the board in public board meetings and discussed with in community engagement.
Thank you.
Okay, Esther had her hand up.
I just was curious if there's ever any sort of like recognition. Well, just backtracking. I'm on the link that Gail posted to demonstrate that Nikki was spreading this information, and I'm just seeing some mailers, and there's like no transparent budget as to what's been spent, like how our money has been spent over all of these years. I've seen in a lot of other schools where they'll post how much a building, like they make everything really transparent so that taxpayers can feel really good about the money being spent. So one, I wanted to know whether the district would be open to being transparent with the taxpayers. And then in terms of what's been done in the past, like there's the 23-24 flyers, but I think Nikki's point is that these flyers over the course of all of these years have made promises, and those flyers have just like vanished. It's not like there's a record of what the district has done. And so sometimes it feels strange when the district is questioned and is called out on not being accountable, and then has no response for accountability, but rather just blames us, the taxpayers, the parents, for just being wrong. And so I just wanted to know if any of that could possibly change if you guys could be more transparent, why wouldn't you do a project list in terms of breaking promises? For the historic resource of the history building, a promise was made to keep the English building. Now that's back on the table. So this track record of not breaking promises, is there any sort of like recognition of that, or is it, again, we're all making up stories? And the other concern is just how the money's being spent. It as a resident, being in a park poor city, being an alumni, being a parent, it's kind of astonishing to see how overbuilt these buildings are and to see that there isn't green space left. And it doesn't seem like there's a master plan. Would the district ever be open to a master plan so that the taxpayers could feel more comfortable with how the money's being spent? Because ultimately we just want you to spend the money the way we would spend the money in our own household. So
to your point, we have a list I shared earlier. Everybody that was here, I think you saw that list of accountability, and there was a price beside each of the items that were listed. And if you haven't been to Samuel High lately, you should go, because there is a park-like feel. If you go into the middle of it's all beautiful green space, and even if we were to pass this bond with the removal of the other building on the opposite side, which is, I forgot the name of the building, but the other building, and replacing that business, excuse me, Carrie, business building, what you will see is in a greater area, which I actually took a picture today of how beautiful it looked with the kids laying out on the grass with a park-like feel. So that is in consideration. We not only did that, but we also, through our garden club, started the trees before we completed the project. They were placed all the way around the track, which then the kids were able to help facilitate that process of bringing the trees back into the space where there are more trees than we ever had on our campus at this point. So I just want to make sure that was clear. Carrie, you want to answer any of the other questions, parts of that question? It was a long question. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it was. I think it's just more of like, the question is really like, is there any willingness for leadership to recognize failings and do better this time around? And that's really the ultimate question.
I think we recognize the concerns that people have. I don't think we don't hear what people are saying. And I think this is, to me, that list proves that we are saying we are vulnerable to the community to say, hey, here's a list of projects specific, even more specific than we have been in the past, with the monies that would be given to us. We actually have named, I can tell you, the people that I know in other school districts aren't naming projects. They aren't telling you specifically what is, to Nikki's point of about a blank check. We're not that district. I don't believe we have been that district. Specific projects with a price tag to it are listed there. One of the things that I can tell you is, if you take a look at it, you will see the outline. Now, if some disaster comes or something happens, a project does have to change because the priority has to go to whatever disaster occurs. But our reality of it is, we have a specific list of projects that we've involved our teachers in, that we've involved our architects in, that we've involved the community, the school community in, so that they can understand what would be in that space. And we've discussed changes of what that would be. Carrie, did you want to help in any way?
It's fair, though, to get a little rebuttal here.
Can Carrie
Dr.
finish
Shelton,
answering her question?
No, you've had a lot of time, Dr.
You've had a long
Okay,
time.
okay.
You have had a lot of meetings where you guys didn't listen to people, okay? The green spaces on all the campuses are getting smaller. They're all decreasing down to a U10 field. Don't shake. Green space doesn't mean permeable ground on sidewalks in between classroom buildings. We're talking about the field space and where kids can play. That is getting smaller because you are building bigger for a declining population. As another example, at Samo High, the designers just, they're not made for schools. So when they designed the pool locker room, as we've heard, they didn't put drains in the locker room where people are exiting the pool. So they have to squeegee the pool locker room floor. Like, who doesn't think about that? People who aren't used to designing gyms and classrooms. The lockers are small, too small for a backpack. So, you know, that's not useful. It's been 3 years. Can you really go back to the contractor and ask them for a whole new set of lockers? Probably not. You probably signed off on the size of the locker. Somebody did, but they're not functional. And the teachers didn't want glass walls. They've told you that. They walked through the new $100 million building that just opened and said it's not conducive to learning and it makes them not feel safe.
Okay, Maria has a quick question in the chat. Is John Muir coming back?
We are bringing back a community school to that location.
What does that mean?
Just what I said, a
A
community
neighborhood school?
neighborhood school to that location.
So it's not going to be John Muir, it's going to be another community school?
It will be one school. It will be one school there.
That
And
draws from the students who live there, or that
Yes,
draws
ma'am.
from some other purpose?
Yes, ma'am. It will
Okay,
draw
so-
from those members of that community. Yes, ma'am.
So we're combining Smash, what used to be John Muir and is currently Smash, or is that what you're saying, Dr. Shelton?
What I'm saying is, what we're going to do is, if there will be one school in the community, we are prepping for a survey that would go out to the school community, those people that live within that catchment. And what we would do is determine what our next steps would be as far as what would happen at that location. Because what we want to see, for years, there has been this discrepancy even in the outcomes that exist within that school community. And we want to ensure that we get the most out of our staff and our students, and that everybody's achieving at the highest level. And to bring back the same disparity that existed before is not fair to our kids. So we want to bring back a school that would catch all of the students in the neighborhood. Those students would be a priority in that neighborhood, and it would be a neighborhood school.
And
But
is
we want the input from
is
the
that part
community.
of this bond proposal?
No,
No.
no. We have, like, for instance, there may be something like what is it, parking lot, or there's a specific couple of things that will come out of this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
But-
there's just some small
So Muir won't be
improvements to the
done with
existing
this one,
campus
you're saying?
to get there, and that will be redoing the parking lot. We're moving the office to the front so that it creates better safety and security on the campus, and taking the old office and making it into an innovation lab, and that will be paid for out of this bond.
Would the district need a whole separate bond then to realize what you're telling us now?
No,
Your school?
no, sir. No, Brian, no.
Berenice has her hand up, and Berenice? You have to
Unmute. Sorry, Brian.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Shelton, for coming over, and thank you, Ricky. Dr. Shelton, I have a question. I am a homeowner and a landlord, and the vacancy rate in Santa Monica is very high, and it's getting higher and higher. And they're building in Santa Monica, or over here in my 1 block from my place, they're going to build a place, I think, of 32, 35 floors of houses, apartments, whatever. And they're building on Wilshire, they're building on Euclid, they're building all over the place. So in my point of view, very humble and not research, but you know what I know about from the news. So I feel that it's not necessary for the school district to engage in building housing. I think there should be enough housing for the teachers. Maybe the teachers own a house and they cannot live in Santa Monica. But we need desperately green space. We need green space for students to play sports. We need green space for the community to enjoy the areas. we need green space for the kids in the community to play sports. So I don't think housing is needed. Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing that. And like I said, it would only be a feasibility study. We would have to determine whether or not there is a need. There was another question that I forgot that was asked by Maria that I should have answered, and I forgot. I'm sorry.
Well,
But
I
that
think
Bond oversight. She asked
Yeah,
about
bond
bond
oversight.
oversight and whether you'd commit to meetings and reports.
well, they're already meetings, so that part of it, I don't know how to, because there are already meetings. So I don't know beyond that what it is that we could do other than the meetings that they already have, where I know as for a fact that we can't even get a quorum for those meetings, where there would be people who I'm not
Sorry.
sure.
Maria,
Hi,
I'm sorry, Maria.
sorry to interrupt, Dr.
You're
Shelton.
fine. You're fine.
Your statement, sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, is there
No,
do you have
I was just gonna see if you all would commit to disclosing any financial reports tied to the construction, and just so it informs the residents, is the district on schedule? Has there been have they gone over budget? What was the reason? I mean, that's the kind of information that we haven't had, with in this last bond, and I think that that's what makes people a little uneasy, especially when you're talking about the amount of money
Mhm.
that you're asking the voters to approve. And so I think that having that, which is something we haven't had, I think is key. And would the district require that as tied to this bond?
I think, Maria, we already do. As the requirement in regards to what's going on, as far as the projects, we do give updates on those projects. When those monies are spent, they go before the board, and specifically what's happening. Now, how we communicate that, I think maybe that's where we need to bring about even more clarity. I can talk to Steve around Steve Massetti, on how we can bring about even more clarity to our taxpayers. For instance, with that list that we have, maybe we give an update if it passes, we give an update of what has been spent at that particular time, and a report back to the board in a presentation at some point. I don't think we're not committed to that. I think we are committed to making sure that there's transparency, and we'll continue to do so. And I think the first step of that, and then I'll shut up, I'm sorry. The first step is that list that we gave of all of those projects. And I think we can give an update of the progress that is being made over time. I don't think that is too difficult to do.
Thank you.
okay, yeah, I think in general you're hearing a desire again to have more transparency, and the fact that the oversight committee hasn't met because you haven't been able to get a quorum for a while just seems ridiculous. I mean, I don't know who's on the committee, but you're supposed to meet, I take it from the chat, every quarter, and who's ever in charge of that committee should be doing a better job of rallying the troops and making sure those meetings take place. Okay.
Those
Any
people
other
are selected by the school board too, and so they should be apprised that people aren't showing up. Also, they could accept from a broader range of people, but it still doesn't change the fact that they're just being told what happened after the fact. And so long as the money's not being spent on fraud, there's really nothing for them to do.
Okay.
They have several managers. Steve Massetti's contract is $20 million, $4 million a year. There's another layer besides him. Yep.
Mr. Mack, we do. We do have someone that does that. And we do have a plan that would meet a purpose with an ending. Everything you spoke of, our district has that. Well, we do have it.
Okay, I think
Are you referring to Steve Massetti, Dr. Shelton?
Yes, I am.
Okay, but again, he is paid by bond money
And that's
from
the way
the district to
everyone,
basically spin that everything is going
and that's
well.
the way it works when you have a bond. And that's the way every district in the state of California operates to have the oversight. And you can check that out with any district that's just around us.
Dr. Shelton, if you had to just very succinctly say, here's the top 2-3 priorities that we're going to focus on for a $495 million bond, what would those be? I mean, you went through each school, which was great. A lot of us here have kids in these schools.
Yep.
But just give me a top 2-3. You know, what's the
Well,
what's
the list
priorities?
It's the list, Brian. When you're asking voters, you can't just go to Grant Sunset Park and say, I'm going to give you just that school. We have to focus on the list. And I can, Gail, if you could put that list or
Yeah, no, it was
but
very
there's a list.
extensive,
Those
and
schools are,
it had constructions at every school that you mentioned, you know.
and that is our priority. Those places are aging. The portables need to be replaced. We need new spaces for TK. When we talk about our libraries, our courtyards, and giving green space, all of those things are what we need to do. And we're committed to the list that I shared. That is what we want to do with the $495 million. And it has to be spread around our school community and not just in one neighborhood, but impacts all of our neighborhoods: Roosevelt, Franklin, Grant, John Adams, Lincoln, Samo High. So it's spread around the district that everybody gets it with a specific area of those 4-year-olds for TK, making sure that they have the space, because those spaces, there are specific requirements that have to happen. As I've said before, I think it's 14 classrooms of TKs, which are 4-year-olds, that the state says that's a requirement now. Here you go. And as a basic age school district, there's no money that comes to us even for those
And
schools.
Nikki has just posted in the chat that this list is not legally binding.
Well, I can tell you this list. What she can say whatever she wants. What I do know is that we have worked
I'm
with.
saying the truth,
I
Dr.
can-
Shelton. It's not legally binding.
I said you can say whatever you want. I'm not
As
here to
if what I'm
argue with
saying
you.
isn't
So
true, but
please
I'm
don't,
saying
please
something
don't
that's
be
true.
angry. There's no need to be angry. We're having a real nice conversation about what we need to do for our schools.
Are you mansplaining now? That's
No,
lovely.
wow. It's okay. It's okay.
Well,
So these
you didn't
facilities
answer
list.
the question. Is it legally binding or not? If it's
No,
not,
there's nothing about this that that's legally binding. But the thing is, we've already utilized funds to do some of these things. So this list, how would we come? I don't want you all to tell you something and then we don't do it. We are going to do these buildings. This because we promised to our teachers, we promised to our parents that we were going to do this. We've generated a list. This is above and beyond what any of our other counterparts will do and have done. We have a generated list. We have a commitment. We have plans. If it's passed, we would start construction on these specific projects to ensure that our schools are getting replacing of these, 15 carry, did you say, to give the modulars? We would make sure that our TK classrooms are built. We would make sure that our innovative classrooms are built for our elementary schools. We would make sure that Samo High is taken care of. And there's 8,600 kids in our school district. And those 8,600 kids in our school district need these new spaces, specifically because our buildings are 73 or 70 plus years old. And we have modulars that are 30 plus years old, and we can't last like that. And we've already spent $20 million on roofs to replace those because we had unprecedented rains. Those things we have to do.
Okay, I think we're gonna leave it there. That was a
Okay.
nice, robust discussion. There's a
Thank
lot
you,
of things
Brian,
in
and
the
thank you to
chat.
the neighborhood. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you for coming, and Carrie, I see several people from the district. Alicia from the school board. So I would just encourage everybody to stay engaged, try to go, attend school board meetings, and so we all can better understand what's at play here. So thank you. We have a lot of PNA business we need to turn to. So thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all. To have a nice one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to put the agenda back up just to remind, this is for the PNA board members, what we've got to turn to. So we've got this candidate forum happening this Sunday. I'm going to give a quick update